Good morning, hello, and welcome to the Gooner Talk, back again with you guys for another show, for another episode of our Arsenal transfer show, a daily show in which we react to the latest Arsenal news, transfers, everything, and get you as basically up to date as you possibly could be regarding what has happened over the last 24 hours, every single day at 8 a.m. without fail is what we're aiming to do throughout the rest of the window. And of course, with all of the transfer targets analytically analysed, if that's a word. I'm not sure that it is. And looking through them with expert insight and stuff like that. But we're going to keep doing this throughout the summer. And I think this is the first 8 a.m. morning show that I've done since we hit 22,000, which is absolutely crazy. I woke up with a different energy this morning. I don't know why. Just a little bit more optimistic. Yesterday's podcast, if you didn't listen to the podcast, was a chaotic squabble at times, but some really good opinions coming out from Andy and from Pablo and from Danny, of course, as well. So make sure you check that one out. I just feel like, I just feel a bit positive. I feel really good. I don't know, it might be because it's my only day off for the week. That might be it. But I just feel good about Arsenal today and towards the transfer window. I'm not 100% sure why. Maybe it's some of the news that we're going to talk about. Maybe it's other reasons. We're going to get into that. But I hope you are doing good. I really hope and appreciate that you've enjoyed all of the content we've been putting out. And it's mad that we have, of course, now hit that 22K. So we're going to keep pushing. It doesn't stop. Nothing stops. We're going to keep going and keep pushing for the next 1,000 as we go on. And hopefully there'll be some surprises along the way. Fingers crossed too. Tease. Anyway, let's kick off today with our first story, which revolves around our favourite Brazilian footballer, Willian. Who, of course, I'm assuming most of us, in the most politest way possible, Mr. Willian, are hoping that we probably see the back of him this summer and that Arsenal can make a little bit of money selling him, which would be incredible, seeing as we got him for free, even though he cost us a ton of money, with obviously wages and signing on fees. But it's for me a really kind of not worrying, but it's a frustrating scenario that hopefully we can move on this summer. Now, the update is, and I mean, of course, I'm sure you guys are all followers of good old Fab, the man on the ground, the transfer guru. Mr. Romano, who, of course, updated us last week, and we did a show on this, that he was basically going to leave. That preluded a press conference with Arteta, in which Arteta turned around and said, when asked about Willian's future, it's very likely that everyone that is under contract will be here next season. We talked about that on a show. We broke down why that is physically impossible and why that won't happen and why players will leave, talking about homegrown quotas. That's on the channel. Make sure you check it out if you want to learn what a homegrown quota is. But also, Romano has doubled down on this now on his Here We Go podcast. If you don't listen to Here We Go podcast, this isn't an ad. You can if you want to. It's Fab talking about Fab transfers, basically. And he said that David Luiz is 100% leaving, but also Willian is going to leave Arsenal. He wants to leave Arsenal, open to sell him. So as I said some days ago, Willian is leaving. He has a contract at Arsenal, so it's a different situation. They need to wait for a proposal. But Willian is one player expected to leave Arsenal. The feeling around Willian is that he is leaving this season and he has a lot of opportunities to leave as well. So what do we make about this? Because I understand that there'll be a lot of opportunities. It's probably a little bit hyperbolic, to be honest. I understand there'll be a few, maybe mostly from MLS, maybe from within Europe. I very much doubt it, but to pay the wages, you'd imagine that maybe there was some interest from Europe. But I think it's probably coming from the MLS area, most likely from Inter Miami. Although saying that, the interesting thing about Inter Miami is that they're in a situation where they've already kind of got a lot of high-paid players on their list. Because they've got Higuain, they've got Matuidi. There's one more that they've got as well, but I can't quite remember who it is. But they've got, I think they're like the cap, because I remember writing a story about the fact that they had to send one of their higher paid players to Fort Lauderdale FC, which is like a team in one of the lower North American soccer divisions, because they basically overpaid on Matuidi and they couldn't afford to have this many higher paid players, and they'd try and beat in the system. It was something weird. But I don't know if he would go there because they've got this situation with the players that are there, and they wouldn't be able to register him on that type of wage. So unless he's going to take a huge wage cut, which I doubt it, and it would be absolutely massive, Into Miami doesn't make too much sense. Other MLS clubs, maybe Galaxy, maybe LAFC, I don't know, some other teams in the MLS that are willing to go and spend a lot to bring this guy in. It depends where David Luiz might go. We know that he's going and they're best of buds, so maybe they'll go off together. But I think a lot of people would be okay even terminating this guy's contract at the moment because of how kind of poor he's been. I mean, he scored as many goals as Alisson this season, which is crazy in itself after costing us so much money, over 10 million quid just in one season. So it is time to move on. And you got fingers crossed it's just going to turn around and sort itself out, and we won't have to worry about it too much. But that's Willian. I can see in the chat box. I mean, it's crazy. Some of you Western listeners that are tuning in from Canada and North America and USA and South America as well, that you're tuning in at ridiculous hours in the morning, desperate for transfer news. You're crazy. But I appreciate all of you guys. I really do. I love hearing where you're from. So do tell us in the chat box. Cleverden says it's 3:06 in New York. Good morning. Good morning, mate. Max is from Miami. This is crazy. All you guys tuning in at silly o'clock in the morning to learn about Arsenal's transfers. Obsessed you are. You're obsessed. And I love it. Moving on to our next story, Sead Kolasinac. Of course, we know all about this guy. A little bit too much, arguably. He left us in January on loan to join Schalke, who got relegated, along with our good friend Shkodran Mustafi. He has now left Schalke. They don't want him. They've released him. He had a 6-month contract and they don't want to sign him. Kolasinac is different, though. Obviously, he's still our player. He's got a year left on his Arsenal contract. Schalke still do want him, but it's very difficult for them financially to make this deal happen. Obviously, Arsenal have been in a situation in the past where they have paid a huge proportion of a player's wages that have left. We're still doing it with Mesut Ozil. We're still paying him over 300 grand a week, despite him not being our player, which will come to an end at the end of this season. But Kolasinac is wanted by other teams. Lazio are a team that are supposedly sniffing around the Kolasinac situation. They might be looking to bring him in. And they are obviously a team that usually play Champions League football this season. I think they're missing out on it this season. They could probably be in the Europa League this season. So they still do have a chunk of money that they can use. But I mean, Italian clubs have been hit pretty heavily by the pandemic. So whether or not they can match his wages will be another thing. And Arsenal may end up having to subsidise another load of them again. So that's obviously something to consider. But he's going to be gone. And the interesting thing about him going is that obviously we've talked about how it would pay for a free transfer like Bertrand. So if we're able to get those 100 grand plus a week wages off, then we would be able to use that money to pay for someone else. And that's something that we need to do. We need to be ruthless in this window. That's the key thing about this window, is we need to be ruthless. We need to be moving on players that don't need to be here. And Kolasinac is certainly one of those players for sure. Let's see what you guys are saying in the chat box. And you can obviously, I think we might add like a bit of a Q&A session to the end of these. So if there's any kind of burning questions that you've got, I can do them at the end, and we'll get through some of these sort of stories quicker, and then we do like a 10-minute Q&A. If that sounds good, we'll probably start doing that. It's probably a good idea, because I see questions that come in about unrelated topics, which I obviously want to keep the flow going, so we'll save them for the end. So if you do have a random question, save it for the end, and then we'll go through with that. Ebby says we need a massive clear out. The real Janice says he is so poor. Isowa says Kolasinac is young. There should be value in his profile. So there you go. I understand that obviously the wages have been over £100,000 per week, and we've been paying this quite a lot because he was obviously a free transfer. And that's what happens, is when you get a guy on a free, usually it does bump up the wages. That's why players like to wait until the end of their contract to leave, because they're going to get a big payday, be it with wages, be it with signing on fees, all of those things involved. Let's move on to the next one, which is Joe Willock. This is looking increasingly by the minute that he is going to be completing a permanent move to Newcastle this summer. They are desperate to keep him. He seems even more and more open to keeping him. Thank you. I had about 3 people yesterday DM me a video of him thanking some Newcastle fans. He was signing some shirts. He was supporting some fans and doing some really good stuff behind the scenes and from his car, which is what you should look for in a football person. He's a good guy. He clearly is. And they clearly want him to stay. He looks happy there. But the thing is that I'm all for sentiment, right? I'm all for being the nice guy. I'm all for Arsenal going, look, you clearly want to go there. We're going to allow that. We're going to sanction the deal. If you want to leave, you don't want to be at Arsenal anymore, you want to go to Newcastle, that's fine. But we're not going to be taken for a ride in this deal. We need to be milking as much money as possible from Newcastle United for this deal. If you want Willock, and if you want to leave Willock, then they're going to have to pay the money. And I'm talking big money now. I'm talking really money that I never thought we would get for Joe Willock. I'm talking 30 mil minimum for this guy. He has scored so many goals for Newcastle this season that's kept him in the league. He is their most impactful and most... He is very clearly their best player right now. Better than Wilson, better than Saint-Maximin. Like, he is better than these guys, clearly, because of the impact he's having on that team. And if you want him, you're going to have to pay for him. And that's as simple as it works. And in the Premier League, a young English talent, homegrown, there's premiums on these. And coming from another Premier League club too, you're going to have to pay what it takes to get him. And so, for me, 30 mil minimum, and even then, I think that's generous. You pay the money and you get the player. It's as simple as that. And that's the bid that I want to be seeing coming in for Joe Willock. I think I think like calls for like 40 odd million, I think are a little bit high. But I mean, you look at what he's done in comparison to someone like Ryan Brewster, never played a minute in the Premier League, went for 24 odd million quid. Jordan Ibe barely did a thing, 18 million quid. Solanke barely did a thing, 20 million quid. Tammy Abraham, obviously came through at Chelsea, has scored a fair few goals this season. They want 50 million for him. They want 50 million for Tammy Abraham. I'm sorry, but this is the price. This is what you pay. This is what you need to pay to get him, and it's as simple as that. Let's see what you guys are saying in the chat box regarding a price for Joe Willock. Sahil says 30 to 35. Balaja says 40 million. English taxes are extra. Matt G says 30 to 35. Jashar says totally agree, Tom. 30 million, no lower in a fee for Joe Willock. Sarthak says 40 mil English tax. Don't forget, it's very true. I think that more counts towards a 30 mil, but I mean, I'm not going to say no to 40 million quid. Matt G says if he scores in the last game, it goes up to 40 million quid. Wilson says I believe that 30 mil is a reasonable fee for Willock, to be honest. Wesley says so Willock plus 10 mil should be enough to get Buendia. This is the point, is that if we want to invest and get some of these bigger targets for us this season, we'll come on to that in a bit, then we need to get as much money for these guys as possible. It's as simple as that. Ioji, I've just missed the message. Oh, no, it's just scrolled past. There we go. Iodeji says Willock is 50 million minimum. He's English. He scored 80% of their goals in the final days of the season. 50 mil. Wow. More than Thomas Partey. That's how much Joe Willock's going to cost you, Newcastle. Anyway, moving on to our penultimate story, I think, of the day. Bissouma and Lamptey. Of course, we've been waiting to see about these ones for quite a while. I know a lot of people are big fans of Lamptey. We know everyone's pretty much a fan of Bissouma. And the good news is that Arsenal are positioning themselves very well in the Bissouma race specifically, to the point where, I mean, the odds on Bissouma going to Arsenal are getting slashed daily. I think we're like 5-2 on now to sign Bissouma this summer, which is obviously a good sign in the betting kind of world. If you look at those, the next team like Liverpool are further away than this right now. So Arsenal are positioning themselves very much in the betting races to sign Bissouma this summer. You're looking at fees between 30 and 40 million, I imagine, to get this deal done. They need to go out and get it done quickly. If they want it done, get it done early. It's as simple as that. It's a transformative figure next to Thomas Partey for me. He's someone that Arsenal need to go out and get. And it looks like a bid could be coming in the next couple of weeks or so from Arsenal if there isn't already discussions. Now, I don't know. This is the side that I don't know, is if there is a lot of truth in the Sanderberg bid deals, which apparently there was a lot of made up stuff because Sheffield United came out and denied that any bids had been made whatsoever. That's from the horse's mouth. So if Arsenal are actually interested in Sanderberg, are they interested in getting both of these players? If they're not, and they are looking at Sanderberg over Bissouma, I am a little bit concerned by that because obviously I prefer Bissouma. I'm not saying that Sanderberg isn't a good player and we're going to have a tactical breakdown on him next week, but I am a little bit, I'm a little bit tentative about the idea of getting him. Sanderberg is less proven for me than Bissouma is. I know he's younger, I think, but still, it's one that I'd be a little bit wary of over Bissouma. But it'd be interesting when we compare them in our tactical breakdown next week. Lamptey is the other one. He also is in the betting races, saying that Arsenal are the favourites to get a deal for him done this summer. It's a lot longer odds than you would see for Bissouma, but it shows an indication that an interest is there. If you know how to read betting markets, they can be a really good indication of kind of transfers and stuff. And since working at 101, that I've related to a lot of betting stuff, it's been helpful to learn about that side of things. But yeah, Arsenal are currently the favourites to go in for him this summer. I think it's a really risky one, considering how many injuries the guy has had. Obviously, he's young. He's looked really promising. He came through at Chelsea. He got into their first team, and Brighton have signed him from there. But I have a lot of questions. A lot of questions about Lamptey, and I think that Max Aarons from Norwich would be a much better signing than Lamptey. Anyway, we'll move on to the final story, and then we'll go through some of your questions in the chat box to round off the show, as we're going to try and do from now on. So, Emi Buendia, you probably saw this story drop yesterday. We did a tactical breakdown covering Emi Buendia in a lot of detail. If you haven't checked it out, please make sure you do. It is on the channel, so you'll be able to find it. We get on the guys at the Canary Cast to come on and talk about Buendia. We compare him to Smith Rowe, to Erdegaard, to Jack Grealish. We make the statistical comparisons, so make sure you check it out on the channel. But this one is gaining a lot of pace. This one, if you from yesterday, hearing from Charles Watts that this is obviously something that's growing up Arsenal's list. A bid is expected to be coming in very soon on this guy. Very soon, within the matter of this week, arguably. This championship season is over. Norwich have been promoted. They're still doing the playoffs, of course, but Norwich aren't involved in that. Arsenal got their last game on Sunday. As soon as that Sunday game's done, look, Monday is day one of the transfer window for me. I know it doesn't open officially until a little bit later on, but for me, Monday, day one, get deals done, get them signed, announce them, register them later on, but you can get deals done outside of the transfer window. You just can't register them. I want to see this deal getting done quickly. I want to see this going down as fast as feasibly possible so that we are set and sorted before the European Championships, before these guys go away with their national teams. We need to see these deals getting done as quickly as feasibly possible. And Buendia is a very obvious one to get done. It's just as simple as that for me. You can't wait on these. You can't allow other teams to get a sniff. Bid, get it done, get him in. You know you're going to get some money this summer from the players that we're going to sell. Get him done. Find out what Norwich want for him and then get it and do it. And I think that Norwich will sell at the right price. What that price is, I don't know. We're looking at a figure probably around the £40 million mark minimum for Buendia to get him from Norwich. They are open to selling. We know that. They have sold in the past, James Maddison, etc. They do sell players. They will be open to a good deal if they think that the bid is right. But, I mean, they made their transfer record is 24 million on Ben Godfrey that went to Everton last season. This would smash that, and quite rightly, because he's a better player and he's a more influential player in the team. But we have to get it done quick. We have to get it done so quick. Anyway, that rounds off all of the news. So we do move on to our question section in the chat box. So if you do have anything to ask, then let's have a look at this one. I see a question about Sam Allardyce and his comments about Maitland-Niles. Now, I just want to get those comments up before I make a comment on them. I see these when he was talking about his position and telling him not to be stubborn. Jashar was the man that asked the question. Where is Jashar in the chat? Let me just scroll up and find this question so I can throw it up on the screen for you guys. Why can't I find it? I literally just saw it. There's so many comments coming through. I love you all, but it's crazy. Jashar, here we go. Tom, after Big Sam's comments on Ainsley Maitland-Niles, do you think there'll be a change in Mainsley's attitude to playing at fullback? What Sam said is Arsenal have got many talented midfield players. I can see why it's been difficult for him. It's very competitive in there. That's why he's been played more as a fullback. If I were him, I'd play wherever the manager picked me. I'd never turn it down, because if you are able to play in a number of positions, then you are going to get more games than if you had one position and one position only. Perhaps you don't want to be tagged as a utility player, but sometimes those people are played more often than those who are stubborn and say, I want to play in that position and nowhere else. What do I think about that, Jashar? I think that Sam Allardyce is spot on. If he wants to get in the team, he's going to have to be that guy. He's going to have to play in these positions that he doesn't necessarily want to play in, because it's Arsenal. You don't get to pick and choose where you want to play. Arsenal, you get picked, you get told where you're going to be playing, you get developed into a certain player, and you do it. There's no player that's bigger than the club. There's no player that can dictate what they want in an Arsenal career. Arsenal dictates them. Arsenal is making the decisions, and they need to deal with that. If he's not going to deal with that, then he can go. It's as simple as that. If you want to go and play right wing, centre mid, right back, whatever, you go somewhere where they're going to play you there every single week. But at Arsenal, you don't get to choose. That's just the way it works. Let's scroll down. Tom says, sorry. No, he doesn't. That was a comment below it. Here we go. Tom, as it's doubtful Norwich would sell us 2 of their best players in one go. Which one would you rather sign, Aarons or Buendia? Buendia, for me, I think he solves a lot of our issues in the attacking midfield department. Goals, assists, creativity, dribbling, all of it, get it done, over. I think we can still get both of them, though, Tom. I think if you put in the big enough bid for both of them, 70 million quid for Buendia and Aarons, I'd do it 100%. Here we go. D says, sorry, Tom, for someone new to this, where does the info redeals that are close coming from? I mean, D, if you're not on your socials, make sure you do. But obviously, you can find loads of information out there. But obviously, being in the business, there is little snippets of info that sometimes you get fed, being a full-time football journalist. But I tend to keep those to myself quite often. Sometimes I tell you about them. But it's tricky. I don't know if you guys follow Chris Davidson on Twitter, but yesterday he tweeted out about Buendia and about a figure, and he was like, I think he said something along the lines of that Norwich want about 60 million quid being reported, but they'd actually take somewhere between 35 and 40 million. And he said he spoke to a source at Norwich to get that information. I think I know the source he's talking about, because the person I think he's talking about, I've spoken to in the past, and they're very open to giving like little bits of information. They write for another website. So I think I know who he's talking about. And he got a lot of stick for that tweet, a hell of a lot of stick. And that's part of the reason why I don't do it. If I hear little things of information, sometimes I'll like sneak it out in a video where I'm not claiming that it's a big bit of information just so the information gets out. But I'm not going to sit there and go onto Twitter and say like so-and-so is going to be signing for this amount of money, because there's no point me doing that, because if I do that, I'm going to get labelled as an ITK, which I don't particularly want. And things change in football very quickly. So you could get told some information about a deal and it won't happen. And so you're going to look absolutely silly, really silly. Like, for instance, let me give you an example of information that got fed through. So last summer, Thomas Partey, through a couple of people that are kind of in with, say, the Bell, for instance, and there was a message that I got sent that basically was confirming 2 days before that this could happen. But I didn't want to believe it because, one, I thought it was crazy and too good to be true. And then it turned out to be true. And if I'd have gone out there and put that information out there that I'd heard and said that, and then it turned out it didn't happen, then you'd look really silly. So, and this is why I didn't really have that much sympathy for Chris, if I'm being 100% honest, because it's the game that you play. If you're going to start tweeting out information, then you're going to get stick for it. It's just how it works. It's just the game. I don't agree with people abusing people, and that's why I think when he put his tweet out saying that he's got stick for it, I mean, you're going to get stick. Don't go abusing people. Don't ever do that, because at the end of the day, they're just doing a job, or they're just trying to make a bit of something. Just ignore them if you don't want to see them. If you don't want to follow someone because you think they're just being an ITK, then just don't follow them. But if you're going to play the game, and if you're going to start tweeting things out and bits of information, then you've got to be ready to receive a bit of stick. And that's why I don't do it. So it's as simple as that. Can we not spam my chat, please? Thank you very much. Much appreciated, because you will be timed out. Wilson says, why are some Arsenal fans so snobby about Buendia? The guy is quality. Wilson, because there's an air of snobbiness around Arsenal supporters in general. Like, not everyone, but I mean, we've talked about it before, time after time after time. The amount of people that think that certain players are not good enough and then go somewhere else and absolutely smash it. At the end of the day, Arsenal fans, it's very difficult to see a guy coming from Norwich and think that they're going to improve Arsenal. We talked about this yesterday. Arsenal historical merit is in the bin right now. I can't get on board with the idea of we are Arsenal Football Club. We should be up here. We should be signing these players, because no. When Arsenal Football Club were up here, it was when money was not a big factor in football. It was when there wasn't your billionaire owners. That's when Arsenal were at the top of their game. And we've been left behind because we don't have one of those. What I mean is we don't have one of those that invests quite like Cities and Chelsea's, etc. So we've been left, and we've obviously been run incredibly poorly. So whilst we consider ourselves on this pedestal, we aren't there in reality. And so we can't be snobby about certain signings. And if they make a bit of sense, if they're doing very well where they're at, it actually might be a good bit of business. Just think about Sadio Mane when he went to Liverpool for the first time from Southampton, and look where he went on to and what he went to achieve. It's things like that. You can't be snobby about certain players. Sahil says, Tom, We are going after all players with names starting in B. Are there any more Bs you can think of? I mean, who are we linked with? Buendia, Bissouma, Boubacar Kamara came up in yesterday's show. So that, I mean, I don't think there's any specific themes to Hill, but it's a nice one to pick out on a crossword, I suppose. Nejk says, if Iwobi was sold between 30 and 40 million pounds, then surely Willock should go for at least 50 million because of the final third product. Maybe, mate, but obviously we are in a pandemic. You have to think about that and factor in that situation. That has lowered fees considerably. And Newcastle have been affected by that. But there is also things behind the scenes at Newcastle going on that they might be able to spend a little bit more money than they previously could do, even under Mike Ashley. So the money's going to be there for them. The money will be there. Bertrand, Berger, yes, you're getting all of them in the chat box. Brandt, there's lots of Bs that we're being linked to. Tulip says, Arteta seems to like Martin and News. Martin? And News for Buendia's bid. Do you think we'll sign both of them? Oh, Erdegaard, yes, sorry. I was like, Martin. Who's Martin? Who's Martin? I was thinking of Martin from Norwich because they used to have a player called Martin. But no, he does seem to like Erdegaard. I don't think we'd sign both of them. I think that would be a little bit excessive. But I think we'll get one of or a different attacking midfielder this summer. Absolutely no doubt about it in my mind that we will. Janice says, what's happening behind the scenes at Newcastle? Basically, there was like I'm not going to say specifics because I don't want to get it wrong, and there's a lot of legal stuff going on, but there was investigations, and I'm pretty sure those investigations haven't found anything, and so therefore Mike Ashley can now do a bit more spending. That's like the short, vague way of looking at it, but if you go and do your research on it, you'll be able to find it out there. But yeah, basically Newcastle and Mike Ashley is probably going to be spending a little bit more and a little bit more free to do what they want now. So it'll be interesting how that works out. Mitchell says Russell Martin is going to be leaked by 6 p.m. now. Tom mentioned it. Yeah, crazy. It's just how it works. I genuinely saw a story the other day. We did a tactical breakdown on Zakaria, I think it was, and I saw a link literally hours that referenced the tactical breakdown. And I'm like, are you looking at me for information? I do a tactical breakdown on a player, and now you're saying we're being linked because I do it based off links elsewhere. I don't know why you're quoting me. Like, why are you sourcing your information from me? Oh dear, it did make me laugh. Jeff said, Tom, most definitely happy for a different player profile approach. We are Arsenal, but we must be sensible in the market. Absolutely. Neil says, is right back really a problem? In short, yes. Too many personal changes in right back is the problem. The time for Cedric and Chambers played, they look good. Bellerin can leave. I think that Bellerin can leave, but we need to get Cedric out. We need to get Kia out. We need to get that sort of things gone from the club. Willian gone, Louise gone, Cedric gone, and Edu can bin off his agent and get him gone too. Get Kia out of the club as quickly as feasibly possible. Stefania says, Tom, what is it with English players? I've never seen a country that hypes up its players like England. Most of the players are average or just good, but I wouldn't want to be that stupid club to buy Grealish. Wow. Okay, so you think that Grealish is overhyped? I don't know. I can't speak for other countries. Because I'm not that ingrained in kind of the social spheres of Spanish or German or Italian or French football, etc. But English players in England get hyped up because of just I guess there's patriotism in it a little bit, and you want to see those English players succeed. And if England players start doing really well, then they're a bit of an asset because the homegrown aspect. Like you look at Man City, they've gone out and signed Walker and Sterling and John Stones and these English players, and they're bringing through Phil Foden. They had Joe Hart previously, of course, as well. Julian Lescott. They've had a lot of England players in the past, and they're winning titles with them. So it's not to say that the players are overhyped. And I don't think that Jack Grealish is overhyped. You look at his statistics, they're not overhyped whatsoever. But I do think that maybe there's a social aspect of it, that being English, hyping up the English players because they're homegrown, maybe. But there you go. Priyesh says, whom do you prefer? I love the word whom. That's great. Whom would you prefer, dear sir? Would you prefer Erdegaard, who has gelled with us already, or Buendia, who might take a bit of time? And most likely, both will cost the same. So what's your choice? Buendia is my choice. I think, and I agree with Danny in yesterday's podcast, Erdegaard's a bit of a luxury player. he's not going to give you all the goals and the assists, but he emphasizes like the play, and he makes you play more slicker and quicker, and just works. Whereas Buendia gives you raw numbers. I think Buendia will give you goals, it will give you raw assists, will be direct. He's not your luxury player. He's your transformative figure. So I think I would certainly be taking Buendia. So there you go. If you are watching the video and you haven't dropped a like on the video, first of all, what you're doing, make sure you drop a like on the video. I really appreciate you tuning in. Alan says, can you call Arteta and tell him to subscribe to this channel? He should see this and buy Buendia instead of Ødegaard permanently. Well, hopefully he's watched the tactical breakdown, Alan. Fingers crossed. Kim B says, would you buy Eze even if he's injured? No, Kim, I wouldn't. Trust me, I love Eze and I would have signed him if he was fit. But no, I want someone to come in next season and have an immediate impact. And Eze is not going to be that guy. Let's see what he comes back from his injury. We don't know how players come back from injury. We look at Bellerin. You look at someone like Holding. They have had their issues since coming back from big, big problems. So I would say no. Wait, see how he comes back from injury next summer. Maybe then make a move for the guy. I want him, don't get me wrong, but not for me. And I don't know how he would pass on medical either. I don't know if that works that way, but I don't know how he would pass if he's got a really massive injury. So I say, should Saka play right back permanently? Absolutely no chance. Or what? Josh says, are we likely to land Emerson or Bertrand? I don't think we'll go for Emerson in the end. I was really keen on the guy. I still am. I'd be very happy if we signed him, but I don't think we're going to be going for Emerson. Bertrand is a toss-up at the moment between us and Leicester. If I'm coming from a neutral perspective, I hope that Bertrand's not watching this. If I come from a neutral perspective, you'd pick Leicester. I think you get more opportunities at Leicester at left back, and I think you're going to be in a better position in the league and you could play European football. The smart choice is Leicester, because their left back situation is that they've got Castagna and Ricardo Pereira on the right back, even though Castagna can play left. They're playing a kid in Thomas, and Christian Fuchs is on the way out. So, and they've got James Justin as well, of course, too. But yeah, I think if Bertrand is smart, he probably picks Leicester. But it depends on money, depends on contract length, it depends on lots of things. So we'll have to wait and see if anything is going to happen with that one. Social says, with Eze and injury, I guess it's not like an MOT on your car. If you tell them the first problem, it still passes. Yeah. That's how medicals work from Social's perspective. Noel says, I don't think Ødegaard is a luxury player. We say that about these creative passing playmaker types. He presses quite a bit and does a lot. And again, what I don't mean when I say a luxury player, I mean a player that basically you add to your team as kind of what's the best and most non-offensive way to describe this? A luxury player I looked at Pepe as a bit of a luxury player when we signed him, because ultimately our biggest issues were with the midfield and with the defence, and instead we went out and signed a £72 million winger that was meant to score us some goals when he didn't really fit into the team and we don't play the style that he works for. That's a luxury signing to me. Like, For Chelsea, if you've gone and signed Timo Werner and if you've gone and signed Timo Werner and Kai Havertz, and then you go and sign Erling Haaland, you're just signing players because you can. Arsenal are not in this situation where we can go and sign a luxury player. We need to sign a player that's going to have an immediate impact, get raw assists, raw goals, and I think that's what Buendia is in comparison to Ødegaard. That's the difference that I've got. JD says, you hold Martinelli's future in your hands, Arteta. Believe me, it's a valuable future. Protect it, embrace it, unleash it. It's going to make you proud one day, I promise you. Fingers crossed we do see a lot more of Martinelli starting next season. He seems to be very much in the manager's mind to be close to a starting position, which is good. The Janice says, Benjamin Pavard, let's do it. It's funny you should say that, because Pavard actually prefers to play at centre-back. That's what he feels is his best position at centre-back. That's where he played at Stuttgart for a long time. Then he moved to right-back, and then, of course, he's playing right-back a lot of Bayern and for France as well. But, yeah, he prefers centre-back. But he's very mobile in that sense. Obviously, playing right-back position and centre-back can make you that type. So I would have taken him, but I don't think you're going to get him. I don't know why Bayern would let him go. Would you bring in another winger, says Divesh? It depends who leaves, Divesh. It depends who goes. But Buendia is interesting because he can play kind of on the right and centrally. So that's why I like that versatility. Wilson says, great content as usual, Tom. It's about time that you put some respect on his name. Is that Martinelli or me? I don't know. Anyway, we're going to wrap up there because I've been going over time anyway answering your questions. But I will try and make this more of a regular thing where I answer a lot of your questions towards the end of the show. Make sure you drop a like on the video, guys, if you have enjoyed it. Even if you haven't, please still drop a like. We went over 22,000 subs, which is mad. So thank you for the continuous support. On our way to 23,000 very, very soon, hopefully. I mean, we want to try and hit 30K, obviously, as soon as possible. But we're going to take these as little steps. We just keep moving, keep producing good content, giving you guys the educative lessons on these players through our tactical breakdowns, giving you a place to come and have your opinions and not be abused for them, not be laughed at. Because if people start laughing or abusing you, they're gone because we don't accept it. It's not what we want in this chat box whatsoever. Anyway, absolute pleasure, guys, as always. I'll see you again a little bit later on today for the Let's Talk Arsenal show at 5 p.m. UK time. I'm going to be having a chat about lots of things and more opportunities for you guys to ask me some questions. So make sure you tune in for that. I'll see you again very, very soon. And as always, up the Arsenal.